Let's take stock of the BlackBerry world. Right now, you're in US about 22%, so you're number 2, number 3. Globally, you're about 16%, so you're still really, really big global presence. But in the last year, you guys have lost about 50% of your share. And I actually found a really interesting number when I was kind of researching, prepping for this, which was Apple has about 300,000 applications right now, and you guys have about 15,000. And for every one application that is downloaded on the BlackBerry App World marketplace, almost 100 applications are downloaded on the Apple App Store. So help enlighten us. What's wrong with this picture right now? What's going on?
Well, I mean, one thing for sure is we need more applications on the platform. That's not to say that the applications that we have there are not amazing. And there are things that we do and the approach that we take to applications and to developers to let them into the platform that is really quite different than the competitors. But you're absolutely right. We need more applications on the platform. We need more web developers bringing their content and their ideas to the platform. We need more Flash and Air developers bringing their content and applications to our platform. We need more Java developers. So we are out there and we are engaged and we are pushing and driving for these kind of experiences. But I think, you know, reality is we have a tremendous opportunity right now. We are in 500 plus carriers around the world, so we are gaining share in many, many countries around the world. We continue to grow, so there's a huge opportunity here for developers to approach BlackBerry as a platform. We have a massive audience. We have an audience that's very engaged, that's used to that deep integrated experience that we provide, and we want to get them up, and we want to get developers building on our platform.
But I mean, the opportunity is unmistakably huge, and everybody knows how important mobile is today, and you guys have been in the industry for a very long time. I mean, one of the longest players, especially in the smartphone world. So how is Apple, and I use Apple as a proxy for a lot of companies, but since they're actually the closest to you in the US and globally, you guys are almost exactly the same in terms of market share. How are they able to come in and attract so much attention and do so well, specifically with software, with applications, whereas you guys have, you know, struggled?
Well, I mean, I think there's no doubt that I think part of, you know, Apple's entrance into the market and other entrants into the market, I mean, kind of crystallized an opportunity that we have seen for many years. And that's the opportunity for the kind of experiences that are driven by, you know, by mobile data to really change the way that you know, users behave. So there's no doubt that has kind of captured the collective consciousness, the consumer consciousness. And, you know, in our strength in the enterprise business, we had for many, many years, you know, many app developers, many app providers building the experiences around that. And we are now riding that wave too, where we are attracting more and more consumers, more and more consumer app developers. So we continue to push into that direction. So I think there is an element of just capturing that imagination and, you know, bringing developers to the platform. But, you know, there's a lot of players in this market. It's you know, it's continuing to evolve. We have a tremendous opportunity on our platform, and we're seeing developers bring their ideas and bring their applications to our platform and really make money. And that's what we're focused on. We're focused on, you know, what are the experiences that developers are going to bring to the platform that allow them to drive adoption, to drive engagement with their users, to drive monetization. I mean, these are the things that are important. So, I mean, whether you have, you know, huge number of apps or smaller number of apps, I mean, you, as a developer bringing your application to the platform, you need to think about what are you going to do to differentiate? What are you going to do differently? What are you going to do to reach and delight your audience? And the other thing that I'll say is that we are, you know, the measurement for App World and, you know, App Store as one means of delivery of applications. We have many ways that we let developers take their applications to market. So you don't have to take your application to market through our App World. You certainly can, and we're there, and we support that channel. But we also work with our carrier partners. We also work with other third-party application providers like GetJar. We also allow developers to have their apps available for download on their site directly. We also work with enterprises. We have 250,000 enterprise servers embedded in enterprises that each one is like a mini app world for the enterprise, and we have developers building applications for those environments. So, I mean, there are applications out there, and there have been applications out there for BlackBerry, and they, continue to push the boundaries.
I mean, not to put too fine a point on it, but obviously, it's a myriad of ways to get applications, and, one for every 100 that Apple is doing. I mean, that's a pretty big margin. And I want to talk about some of the carrier stuff in a moment, but right now, I mean, what would you say is more important to you, enterprise or consumer, especially in the software world?
You know what? I think the things that we are focused on from a platform perspective are really enabling both enterprise and consumer. I mean, when we have conversations, there are certainly things that we do specifically for each part of the platform. I mean, if you look at our enterprise, for example, we're partnering with some of the big leaders, industry leaders in enterprise integration middleware, the SAPs and Oracles and IBMs, to make it really easy for their developers within their tooling to be able to access and deliver content and build applications for BlackBerry. On the consumer side, we have a number of public services around push, and we have commercial services that we provide. So there are different things that we do that are focused kind of on one part of the ecosystem versus the other. But at the same time, the core thing that we do to enable developers really transcends the enterprise versus consumer. And that's, we give them access into the platform, into the core experience on the device, so that you can embed your application, you can embed it right in the core experience. So out of the email or the messaging app or the calendar or the maps, to be able to launch your application and have users come in and drive usage of your application through those experiences. These are the kind of experiences we really believe will transform user behavior. And this is, these APIs and what we do to enable that is really consistent across the enterprise and consumer. So that's kind of the big thing that we're focused on right now from a platform perspective.
So how do you make these APIs consistent given the variety of SDKs that you have and the increasing fragmentation of BlackBerry as a platform? I think Jim Basili said at Web 2.0 that the quote was, "You don't need to go through a control point of an SDK," when he was talking about the difference between RIM and Apple, and that the SDK is not that single point of entry for BlackBerry developers. But you guys have 4 SDKs. You have the JVM SDK, you have the native SDK that you guys are working on, WebWorks, and then the Playbook Flash and Air SDK. So I mean, if I'm a developer and I have a startup and I'm looking at mobile applications, I don't even know where to get started.
Yeah, it's a great question, and really the vision that we have here is to really meet developers on their own terms and on their own turf. So, we've grown up. The device has been a Java device, for going on a decade now, and we've been passionate about pushing that Java platform. At the same time, we recognize that there are developers coming to the platform wanting to bring their content and their ideas with various backgrounds. So we've started to evolve to push, a web platform where you can build complete applications, native applications on the device using entirely web technology, and package them up and have the same security model and the same access to the native environment as you have in Java. With the Playbook, we're introducing the Flash and Air SDK to enable all those Flash developers out there to bring their content, their services to the platform. And with native, it's enablement for kind of low-level game developers or for those working on media applications and developers who need that level of control. So I think, the focus for us is to give developers choices, to work with them in environments that they're comfortable and familiar with. So as a developer approaching the platform, I mean, you should first of all ask yourself, what is it that I want to do? What is my end user going to demand? And we're committed to making sure that no matter what choice you make across those SDK environments, you have equal access to the platform and to the core services and to that deep integration that I was talking about. And then it really becomes a technology choice. And if you have a background in web and you've built up web content and you have web content that you have available on your mobile site or on your desktop site, and you want to take that content and use it and bring it into your application and accelerate the process, then by all means, we want you to start there. Same if you're a Flash developer. If you're a native developer and you have native libraries that you've brought up on other platforms and you want to take those assets and reuse them. So we really are working to give developers what they need to be productive. And what we're finding is that developers want to be able to take their assets across platforms. They want to be able to take them from desktop world to mobile world. Doesn't mean they're going to use the same layout, the same rendering, but they're going to be able to reuse a lot of the technology that they've built up and they certainly will be able to reuse the skills. So it's not about kind of hijacking those developers with a proprietary SDK. It's about meeting them on their terms and giving them the tools that they need to be able to be successful in building their applications.
Well, I mean, to a certain extent, all SDKs are somewhat proprietary, especially when the OS itself is closed source. But I want to touch on the fragmentation issue for a moment. I mean, you guys, besides the fragmentation of the SDKs, now have a new platform that you've launched, the Playbook OS. Why go that route? I mean, it seems like Android and iOS are going the route of we're going to take the smartphone OS and build that up on a tablet form factor. Why create a completely different platform for people to develop against?
So, I mean, we really have a different strategy in terms of our approach to the tablet and the environment there. I mean, we really believe, and we've targeted the Playbook and the tablet OS as something that is specifically targeted at that form factor and the use case for that device to deliver the professional grade experience that we believe our users and the general population will demand. And to do that, we've built an OS that has multitasking and is built to run on multi-core from the ground up. So whereas others are taking a smartphone platform and trying to bring it to the tablet, and still others are taking PC platforms that are kind of squared down and then brought to the tablet form factor. We are building an OS and hardware specifically for this purpose because we know that that's the kind of uncompromising experience that is going to be required to really transcend what that form factor can offer. So it's really a kind of fundamentally different approach for us. And in terms of consistency across the platform and across the portfolio, I mean, QNX and the tablet OS, I mean, this is designed for multi-core, and this will be our multi-core strategy going forward. So we'll be looking at products in the portfolio that are multi-core across tablet and device form factor. And we will look to unify the developer experience across these form factors.
But that's the part of what you said, about it being a great professional experience. This is one of the things that really confuses me sometimes about your strategy is that it's called the Playbook, and I'm assuming it was named that for a reason, right? I mean, a tablet device is considered more casual and less productive than smartphone devices. So how are you reconciling that? I mean, is it consumer? Is it enterprise? You said professional experience. You didn't say a consumer experience.
It's true, and I think it's professional can transcend whether you're using it for business or whether you're using it for entertainment or for media consumption. Reality is the kind of experiences that we think users are going to really gravitate towards on these platforms need that level of performance. If you're going to run the full web, if you're going to have Flash embedded in the browser and performance, you need that level of performance, and you need it baked in from the hardware up through the OS. If you're going to run full streaming media and you're going to have video playback, and you're going to have these as true multitasking, not app switching where you move back and forth and you pause one app as you start another app, but you really run two applications at the same time with context and being able to have push updates and being able to interact with other elements of the OS. You need that built in from the ground up, and this is the strategy that we're taking. So when we say professional, it doesn't mean it's focused solely on business. It really it's talking about the quality of the experience and the quality of the performance of the experience across enterprise and consumer.
So I want to talk about how it is to actually get an app made for your platform or platforms. I've seen a lot of I don't know how to put this lightly, but there's been some issues that people have had. I was talking to a developer the other night who was just building on the Blackberry JVM. And he said just to do on the regular SDK, he had to do 5 different versions of his application because none of them worked right across just BlackBerry devices. And then Vision Mobile recently published that they estimate that developing an application for BlackBerry costs 2.5x what it would in terms of everything, manpower, getting it completely out the door and developed, than developing an application for Android. So, what's the strategy to kind of bring that down a little bit, make it more accessible? Is that WebWorks or is this something else?
Certainly, WebWorks is a big part of that strategy, but there are things that we're doing across the platform to provide that consistency of experience and API. And I mean, fragmentation is something that for anybody working, whether it's in mobile or in desktop, I mean, it's something that developers have been struggling with and dealing with. And we're seeing it creep into other platforms as well. I think in some cases, the incumbents, those of us who have been around this industry and have had products and SDKs and been engaged with developers for a decade, there's a certain amount of challenge that comes with that in terms of pushing the platform forward and maintaining compatibility. But what we hear when we talk to developers is not so much that they expect to take one experience and have it run exactly the same on every platform. And that's within every product in a portfolio from one platform provider or across platform providers. What's really important to developers is that they can leverage the assets and skills that they have across platforms. So this is where a technology like WebWorks really kind of takes its focus. So we believe that the evolution of web technology as it moves from beyond just rendering in a browser to an environment where you have full experiences, full application experiences, but built entirely in web technology outside of the browser with a proper security model, with full access to the native environment. I mean, this is the direction that we can go to drive both cross-product and cross-platform capabilities for developers. So a developer taking an application that they build with WebWorks and using the assets and the logic, the JavaScript, the HTML, the CSS, and targeting that at the device, and then taking that same application and bringing it to the playbook, it really involves some tweaks and some specialization of the UI and perhaps taking advantage of certain extensions, but the core of the application can really stay the same. And this is the kind of investment the developers want to leverage across platforms. And same goes for if they're targeting other platforms, other vendors provide. We've just gone one step further in terms of making it that easy to build specifically with web outside of the browser. We give you everything you need so you don't have to, as a web developer, have to drop down into native code at all. You access all the native functionality in JavaScript and in familiar constructs that you're used to working with, and you build a complete native application using web.
Now, this is the same strategy that Palm took. When they relaunched, they did WebOS. Their whole thing was build native applications with web technologies, existing technologies that you might already be building for if you have a rich web application. And it hasn't really worked for them. There are a variety of reasons why. I'm actually kind of curious to know, what are you guys going to be doing differently? How are you going to make this work for you where, this was a very unique strategy that did not work out well for Palm?
Yeah, I think the reality is, web outside the browser it's an evolving kind of space. I mean, you're seeing specs evolve, you're seeing the standards bodies evolve, you're seeing HTML5 come into the forefront, and I think this is going to continue to evolve. So our strategy here isn't so much about pushing a proprietary approach. What we want to do is we want to provide the best possible implementation of the core underlying technologies to work with the framework providers, with the dojos and jQueries and Senchas, to make sure that what they're doing is going to run and is going to operate beautifully on our platform. And where it makes sense, where there are elements of the mobile use case and developer experience that need to be considered, we're working with them to drive those standards in that direction. So it's really not a proprietary play. It's about being open, and it's about working with the standards to be able to evolve the platform to a point where you actually may be able to use these technologies cross-platform. So where we differentiate and where we attract developers to our platform and what will make developers successful on our platform is the level of integration we provide, and it's the commercial services that we provide. So it's things like in-app payment and advertising, analytics APIs that we give to developers in SDKs so that when they bring their applications to the platform, they can monetize in different ways. They can have different channels to market in terms of reaching their audience, and they can understand how their audience is using their application. And then you take that and you couple it with these super app concepts that we have around deep integration into the device. So really making your app more than just an island of experience, something that you jump into as a silo. It really becomes core to the device, to the core experience of that device. I mean, these are the things we believe will differentiate on. These are the things we believe will drive that next level of user experience and integration on our platform. And the fact that you can access all of that in web technology just makes it that much more accessible.
Well, I could go on for a long time, but I think we're out of time, so thanks so much for coming out.
Okay, thanks, Ryan.